Strong bodies,
kind hearts,
unstoppable minds.
You're listening to Strong Girls Pod,
where strong women share their stories
to inspire strong girls.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Strong Girls Pod. As always, I'm your host, Charlie Ekstrom, and today I'm here with a super special guest. She has 4 medals to her name. She is an ESPN commentator and personality. If you know her, you love her. If you don't know her, you're about to love her. This is Miss Victoria Arlen. Victoria, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. That's quite the intro. Thank you. I feel very loved. So thank you.
Well, I mean, again, for people who are listening who know you, they better already. But for the people who are gonna know you after this episode, they're going to love you. And I'm so grateful for you coming on and making the time. It's gonna be you have an epic background, and I'm so excited to share it and to hear your story.
Oh, thank you. I'm excited and really honored to be here too. And I am really excited to one day learn how to serve a volleyball with your help. So thank you.
Oh yeah. It's on. We're going to get you on the court. We're going to get you serving, and you're just going to absolutely be a superstar because we're going to work together and make sure the serve is a superstar.
Okay, I'm ready. I wouldn't trust anyone else but you. So thank you.
I love it. I'm your girl. It's great. We're going to add it to the repertoire. We're going to add it to your intro as soon to be volleyball serving specialist.
Yes. I love that. It's a great intro.
It's amazing. I love it. Well, Victoria, I've cued you in. I've given a little bit of background as to who you are, but you've got a pretty incredible story. And for our listeners who don't know your story, I'd really love if you could start and cue us in and give us a little bit about your background, what got you into sports, what got you into swimming. I know that you're not the volleyball star yet, but you were a star in the pool. And I really just want you to cue us in and let's hear the Victoria file.
I'll give the cliff notes of the Victoria file.
Perfect.
It's been an interesting journey for sure. To kind of rewind the clock a little bit further, I have been a sports fan my entire life. I fell in love. I grew up playing hockey and dance. I played every sport. I'm one of 4. I have 3 brothers. I'm a triplet. So we all played sports from a very young age. Both my parents were athletes. So it's one of those things that it was always just my space. And it was always the space I felt the most seen and heard, and just a space that made me happy. And at 5 years old, I told my mom I was going to win a gold medal swimming. And at this point, we were all doing all different sports, but I just kept going back to the water. And that was really just my space. And so I drew on a swim cap. My mom drew it because she had better drawing skills than I did, an American flag and my name on it. And I would wear that in our pool and be like, look, mom, I'm going to do it one day. And she goes, yeah. And that was the cool. My parents never, I think it breaks my heart when I hear stories of parents no, that's not realistic. And it's well, it's not realistic if you say that. And so I was really fortunate to be brought up in a family that was hey, if you want to go to the moon, you got to, be trained properly, but go for it. And so I had just really big dreams and really just wanted to go out and do some really cool things. And all of that got a little sidetracked when I developed these 2 really rare neurological conditions called transverse myelitis and acute disseminated encephalomyelitis. And basically, to best describe it, it's like a head-on collision with your body, and it attacks itself. And it essentially, both conditions, while separate in their own right under the same family, it's very rare to get both. So one attacked my brain, one attacked my spine. And I went very quickly from being this normal, healthy, active, jumping jelly bean of a child to in a complete vegetative state, unresponsive. And at that point, doctors really kind of wrote me off as a lost cause and told my family, hey, this is not looking good, and she's probably not going to make it, and you should really just prepare for that. And if she does make it in the slightest form, the Victoria you once knew is never coming back. So you should prepare accordingly and probably put her away in a home and just move on with your life. And thank God, my parents did not listen, because they just refused to say goodbye. They refused to plan a funeral, and they brought the world to me. They set up a hospital room in our living room and basically had the mindset, however long we have with her, we're going to give her the best quality of life we can. And for 4 years, I was in this vegetative state. I started coming out once I started, I started emerging out of the vegetative state through blinking. So 4 years in, I started blinking, and that's how I let my family know that I was in there. And that was kind of the beginning of me essentially coming back into the world, and that entailed relearning how to talk, relearning how to do everything. And at that point, there had been terrible damage done to my spine, so I was facing a wheelchair. For that, I was like, that's fine, we'll get a hot pink one, I'll learn how to pop a wheelie. I just am excited to not be in a hospital bed. And so I really started relearning how to live again, but also navigate the world in a wheelchair. And the world is not very, at least, back in 2010, not as accepting of individuals in wheelchairs. And look, we're still a ways away from where we should be. But I realized very quickly that I couldn't just go back to being me. There was a new version of me. A piece of me had died when I went through all the traumatic stuff I went through, but also a piece of me had come alive, coming out of it and surviving. And so I actually got into sports. It was originally sled hockey. So growing up, we played hockey, and it was sled hockey in our area through this incredible organization called Northeast Passage that put me in a sled. And I learned how to play hockey again. And I was playing with the boys, and I was really loving being in this space. And around the same time, my brothers decided they wanted to get me back into swimming. And I was terrified of the water. Now that my legs didn't work, I was like, I cannot swim. That is a terrifying thought that I'm just going to sink. And so they strapped on a life jacket and took my arms, took my legs, and threw me in the water and jumped in with me and essentially got me over that fear. Look, you can do this. We're just going to find a new way. And that's really how my whole family was from the get-go. Like, it's going to be different, but that's okay. And we're going to find a new way to do it. And so sports became my safe haven. I was really bullied when I went back to school. Because we had just moved to a new town. And so I was the new kid in a wheelchair. And then I became the coma kid and was like all those things. And it was like my space where I could get in the pool and swim. I could get out on the ice and play hockey and just be an athlete. And so in a lot of ways, sports saved my life, because I was really struggling with, what do you do when you've lost, when you've gone from 11 to 15, essentially overnight, you've endured trauma, pain that's unspeakable to most. And then you have to just go back to class and listen to people gossiping about who's going to be prom king and queen, and why, you're too pretty to be in a wheelchair and all that stuff. So it was like a really weird space, but sports was my space. And so it took me to some really cool places. I found, from the time of being thrown in the water, 2 years later, I found myself in London at the 2012 Paralympic Games. And that was just a whole experience in of itself. And it was a moment, when I won gold, I looked over at my parents and they were all crying. And it was the first time we were crying tears of joy. And I think that wasn't even expected. I just loved being in the water, and I loved the competitiveness of just competing. But I competed against people who had legs, and I didn't have working ones. And then everything just fell into place. And I got a really incredible coach that believed in me, because a lot of coaches didn't want to coach me. And then my hockey coach was like, you really need to pay attention to swimming. And I was like, no, I'm a hockey player. And he's like, well, yes, but this is a really cool opportunity. And then from there, it really just kind of continued to open doors for me. And I found myself getting opportunities to share my story. My story was actually shared without my permission, so I didn't want it out there. And then when I broke my first world record, it was essentially leaked out, because I started to make, for lack of a better word, waves in different spaces. And so with that, I started doing a lot of speaking and a lot of different media tours and stuff. And that's how I ended up at ESPN, doing a little bit of a whole car wash series of giving interviews and stuff, and really starting to get that bug of sports broadcasting. I didn't know it at the time, but some folks there really encouraged me to come back and job shadow and consider, what this has to offer. And a year later, unbeknownst to all of us, I was getting ready to go to med school to go be a doctor. And because my swimming had been winding down, and I was really my body was pretty shot, and I was ready to go be a neurologist and try to cure the conditions that almost killed me. And then I got an offer at ESPN, and that's when everything changed. And I was 20 years old. No one of that age or even close to that age had ever been offered a job in that position. And so I took it and ran with it. And then in the meantime, I also was just I was having a lot of health challenges, and I needed to be getting out. I needed to have other ways to get out of my chair. And that's how we found activity-based therapy. And it wasn't even about walking. It was about just having a better quality of life and getting my spine in a better place, my bones in a better place. And so my body had been through so much, and I jumped straight into, the swimming and all these other things that we never even really grasped. Okay, what does this look like? And that's when my mom opened up this incredible neuro recovery center on the East Coast. And that's really where, to the surprise of many of us, I started walking after being nearly 10 years in a wheelchair, and I was never supposed to walk again. And then from there, I've done a lot since, but I don't want to take up all your time sharing this story, but that's really where kind of the next part of my journey began.
Oh my gosh. I was holding back tears for a good solid chunk of your story, and it's incredible. And I'm like, I could sit here for hours and hours and listen to it, because it's been such an incredible journey and path that you've taken to really get to the place that you're at now. And I love you started walking again, which your entire kind of being has been just this path of defying so many odds that were set against you. And it's such a cool thing to be able to be like a living, breathing proof of, like, the odds being stacked against you doesn't mean that you're going to lose in those odds. Like, there is such a huge capability and foundation that's set. And I feel like looking at that foundation that your parents set from the very beginning, when you were a little kid, who was like, yeah, let's draw that American flag on your swim cap. If you're going to the Olympics, we're going to get you where you're going to train and you're going to work to go to the Olympics. If you're going to be an astronaut, you're going to do the proper training, but you're going to be an astronaut, and let's do it. Let's take it seriously. And they never gave up on you in that context, and they never gave up on you when you were sick. And I think that that's something that's so powerful and just really, really speaks so much to that foundation of, like, you had such a foundation of support and love that of course you were going to be able to overcome some of the challenges that were put against you, because all you ever knew was that you were going to be loved and supported while you were on that journey to defy those odds. It's pretty phenomenal.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's a crazy journey, but I go back to that family and the strength. And I think a lot, I was asked that the other day, someone's like, well, how did you not give up? And I was like, because the people around me weren't giving up. So in what way did it qualify me giving up? I mean, there was moments where I was like, this is pretty uncomfortable. But looking around them, with them not giving up, I was like, who am I to give up then? Or I have to at least keep trying.
It's amazing. And it's really powerful. It's if nobody else around me is going to let me give up, I sure as heck am not going to give up, because I have all the reason in the world. They have all the reason in the world to give up on this situation. But if they're not showing any signs of wavering, any signs there, I have no reason to waver. I have no reason to not give it my all to be able to do the things that I'm capable of doing.
100%. Yeah.
I love it. I love that your brothers just strapped a life jacket on you and just threw you in the pool.
Threw me in. Yeah. It's actually a really great metaphor too, because it's one of those things that they threw me in, but it's like a lot of times, how many times have we felt like we're on the edge of a pool when something scares us? And sometimes you need someone to just like push you in, or maybe not throw you in, but you need someone to kind of give you that extra, hey, it's going to be okay. And so theirs was a little more dramatic, but it's such a metaphor for life of, like, sometimes you just need to jump in.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's funny to me. It makes me think of, like, moments in my childhood of, like, scary moments or moments that were a little bit tumultuous. I remember my dad was, like, the most epic at this. My little brother and I, anytime that something would kind of go wrong or you'd kind of see tears start to phrase, my dad or our family, we would be like, yay! Like, something scary would happen and we'd just start cheering. Yes. It was like
that's so
the best
cool.
thing ever. My parents started doing it when my brother and I were young, and like something scary, or you fell, but you were having fun playing, and then you see the waterworks start to come. It would be like, celebrate! Like, you did something scary. Yay! It was the best thing ever. It made me so grateful to be a part of it, because like doing scary things weren't that scary in the long run. It was like, I grew up around fishing boats. My dad's a fisherman. If you fell in the water or like fell off a dock or whatever, you were told, like, we'd learned how to swim really early, obviously, but like you fell off the dock and you got wet, like, oh well, somebody's going to spray you with a hose anyways. Like, it was one of those fun ways to take adversity and like laugh in the face of adversity, or like find joy in the face of adversity. It's like your brothers were like, no, you're going to do this. We're going to check you in. We're going to be right there with you. And this is going to be hilarious to look back on, that we just strapped a life vest on you and threw you in the water, but you're going to swim. We're all going to do this. It's this scary thing. We're going to do this together. And I love it. It's such a testament to just, again, it's like, there is a reason why they did it. And it was to take that fear element and eliminate the fear and just show that you were loved and supported on that journey to come back from it.
100%. Couldn't have said it better than you.
It's really cool. I love it. I think laughing in the face of adversity, I don't know about you. I'm like I smile when I'm on like scary roller coasters. My immediate reaction is usually laughs.
Humor
and
is
I feel like I associate it to that.
Yes. Humor it has been a saving grace for me, that I tend to just like, I think I resort more to the comedic relief or a little bit of dark humor, because I'm a very ugly crier, and I really just not, that no one needs to see that. And I think for me, it's one of those things that when you can find the humor and the joy in any situation, you give yourself this level of protection, that when things come, you're still going to find something that's joyful, or you're still going to find a reason to laugh. And then like even recently, I had a really bad health scare a couple weeks ago, and I ended up in the hospital, and it was a relapse of the transverse myelitis. So I almost ended up paralyzed. See, I laugh, but I'm like, well, I'm okay now. But it really rocked me, and it was the second time in 2 years this has happened. And I was live on TV when it started, and so we were like, But like the next day, I was like, oh crap! Like I just literally, and then I look over, and I'm like, just pull the plug, and they're like, what? And I'm like, just pull the plug. You didn't do it before, but do it now. And they're all like, and the nurse is like, and then they're like, there's no plug to pull, and I was like, then find one. Pull the plug. And they're all like, we don't know to laugh or to cry right now or whatever. I was like, you should have done it years ago.
You're like, this is round 3.
I'm like, I'm out. I've struck out. But you need to have it, because it's like the yay mentality that you said. Like, you got to find that joy, because if you don't, life's going to really kick you in the face and keep kicking you in the face.
It really is. I think I can't help but like giggle at that, because that's, well, it's ridiculous that you were like, I don't care where it is, find one.
There was a lot of medications that had been pumped into my body. I will say that, but I was like, just pull the plug. Like, come on now, people. This is old news. And they're all like, no, there's no plug to pull. I was like, then find one, okay? Just find one.
It's pretty special, and I love that you said like finding humor is a way that you're like, that you have to find humor in tough situations, or that you have to find little things that are going to get you through the tougher and the darker moments, because it's so much harder to find a way to push through if you're not looking for good in the situation. Something that we talk about a lot at Strong Girls United is this whole theory about 3 good things, and finding that motto of, in every day, no matter how good, no matter how bad, you can always find 3 good things. We look at it of like, there is a negativity bias that people naturally have. And
yes,
when you think of your negativity bias, if you think about the fact that in any day you can take 3 good things out of it, it's like, okay, this day, I'm coming out of this day thinking that it was the worst day of my year. Let's find 3 good things. That instantly shifts your framework. It instantly shifts your mindset into one where you're like, oh, this isn't as bad as I thought it was. There's
Yeah.
these 3 things that I can find that can help get me through that moment. Like, this was a really tough day, but I had these 3 good things that happened in that moment. And it's like, it goes back to you of like, okay, I need to find a little bit of joy. Like, this is the worst case scenario that I could possibly be in, but let's find a piece of joy that's going to help get me through this. Because again, this is the toughest of the tough. Like, this is the top of the hill of where it could be bad. And how am I going to get through this bad moment?
100%. I do that a lot. I do something very similar, but I start my day that way. Even if I'm up at 2 a.m. for a flight or for a show or whatever, or if I just don't feel well, I put my feet on the ground. I say thank you. And then I go, today's going to be a great day. And I put my hands in the air. And then literally like a 3-year-old toddler ballerina, I shake my bum a little bit and I go I do a little jig. And that's like, I start my day that way where I said, today is going to be a great day. And I was in a production meeting the other day and people were just having a rough day and there's a lot going on. And I literally said to everyone, I said, it's a great day to have a great day. You know why? And they're all like, why? And I said, because we woke up today. I said, so if nothing else, if the show goes down the toilet, if all these things, I said, we still got up today. We still put our feet on the ground. We still got to be here together. We still got to have a conversation. We still got to put some good out there. Even if it wasn't what we felt was our best, we did our best to maybe be a distraction for someone's tough day. There's someone in the hospital that's probably watching our show. And so it was like, it's those little shifts. And that has been such a like saving grace for me, especially the last couple of years when I really struggled with my mental health, that it was to find just one good thing. And if you find one good thing, there's quite a few other that follow, but look for it, actively look for it, because our default is going to go negative. Our default is going to go in that protective space. But if you start reprogramming how you think, you wouldn't believe that just a beautiful flower could make your day a little bit brighter.
Absolutely. It's exactly that. It goes back to the root of it, of how are you going to be able to turn this framework? How are you going to be able to reframe into something that has a more positive light? Because they're so easy to turn negative. I love that you have mottos to go with it. I love that today is going to be a great day. I think that the whole idea of like having mottos and phrases to get you through some of the more adverse moments and to just get you through days in general. I think mottos are the best thing ever. My personal motto is make it happen. And I think it's like my family motto. This goes back to when we were little kids, and it's like, there are different types of people in the world. Be a person that makes it happen. And that's like been always my family's motto, my own personal motto. It's gone through my life. Now, as I'm sitting here, I'm like, yeah, this has always been it. And I think that mottos are something, and phrases and keys that are going to get us through any moment are so special. And I love hearing yours.
I love sticky notes with mottos. Like I have to show you, like I have these, like, they look like ramen noodle sticky notes.
Oh my goodness.
They're amazing. And they're literally called ramen notes, and they go into like a little ramen noodle bag, but I have sticky notes everywhere. I have them on my laptop. I have them in my room. I have them all in because I feel like those mottos and those mantras and any of those things help you, they get ingrained in you. And I love them. Even the other day, I wrote a new one that I've been saying a lot to myself, but other folks as well, is show up because you can, and what a blessing that is. And it's like those moments, or like pain means you're alive, so don't forget to start living. Like it's those little things that like have kept me going. So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, are you kidding me? Interrupt me all you want with those mottos. Again, like these ramen notes. I might need to get myself a set of the ramen notes, because that is adorable, and that makes writing notes so much more fun. I have my sticky notes with little bunnies on them, but they're almost out. So I think I'm going to have to get ramen notes now. It just feels right. It just feels right, you know?
Yeah.
It's so cool. I love that you have them all over your house. And I think that's something that I know that you've talked about, and that I've talked with a lot of people about, is like the whole idea of building a toolbox. And I love building a toolbox with like phrases and mottos to get through. And it's like looking at just the entirety of life. And mental health and resources and things that you work to build up your own. We think of it at Strong Girls United as like building your own toolbox. You have your toolbox and you can share tools, you can add tools, but it's things that you're collecting to strengthen yourself. It's what are those tools going to be when something's a little bit broken? How do you have a spare Allen wrench that I could use? Like I have a loose screw here. And the whole idea of building your toolbox up with phrases and mottos on your journey is such a cool one. And I love that you have little sticky notes all over, because it's like your toolbox is kind of spread out all the way around you because of the fact that you've got these little reminders and these little notes to do it.
Yeah, that's something that has been super helpful for me. And I think I've been on such a journey. And I think even the last couple of years when I did start taking care of my mental health and realizing, hey, I don't need to live in a depressed, anxious state. That's not normal. And that's not normal to be your status quo. Like there are tools that can help you. You just got to find those tools. And I think I was really nervous to find those tools for a long time. So I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't think they existed. I just got used to this way that I was functioning at. But I think I've been so fortunate to have the tools that I have now, that when things do go awry, I even the other day had a moment where my mom and I talk all the time, where I just said, I was like, I used my tools today and didn't panic, didn't, stress out, didn't start crying. Like I really acknowledged it, went into that toolbox, figured out what I needed to do, figured out where I need to breathe a little bit. I need to take a step back. I need to focus on some good things or gratitude or just take a breath and be like, I'm okay. We're good. Everything's good. So it's all right. We'll reset tonight and we'll get up tomorrow and get after it. And I think having that toolbox, I talk to people all the time. I'm like, just find what's in your toolbox. Like what helps you in a high stress moment? Because life itself is stressful. Life itself is triggering, let alone if you have had trauma or had adversity. And so I think I love that so much, because that is something that has been a saving grace for me, is having that toolbox and being able to, okay, we need that tool. Okay, well, we probably need that tool. And all right, this is malfunctioning. Let's fix it. And you no longer become a subject. You no longer become a victim of your emotions, a victim of your circumstances. You really continue to be the author of your own story.
That gave me goosebumps. I'm like, really, it hits home. It hits home really significantly, and especially like growing up, learning to kind of build those things. And when I entered adulthood, it was like one of those things where I thought I had great tools, and then it was like, less. Okay, like wham, get slammed against a wall. Okay, I don't think I was quite ready for that yet. Let's figure out how to build those tools. And I love that you have moments where it's like, talk to your mom and you're like, I got to use my tools today. And it actually saying like, I used my tools today. It's like, I got to do this. I loved that you said that. It was like, I get to do this. I get to do these things. I get to use the tools that I've built up for myself. It's not, I had to, I relied on them and it was a bad thing. It was like, no, I had these things. They were ready for me. They were available for me. And using those tools is such a good thing. It's like, okay, I created these. I gave myself the opportunity to use them and I used them and it was great. Like I'm thriving as a result of it, which is so special.
Yeah. And I think it's a blessing to have a toolbox. It's a blessing to have support. It's a blessing to have help, wherever that may be. And I think it took a really long time. My therapist worked really hard with me on reshaping my focus on that and be like, you get to have these tools. You get to, and you have access to them. And we celebrate those wins as much as people are so quick to celebrate the obvious wins of, at least for me, like the show or this or that. Like we're going to celebrate the fact that everything that could go wrong went wrong that day. And you did not panic. You did not go into this bottomless pit of emotions. You reached out. You asked for help. You sat down and did a meditation. You took some deep breaths. You drank some water. You reset the clock and you didn't fall apart. And I think that's the thing is like, we get to work on ourselves. We get to improve in some way, shape, or the other. And that's a blessing. It's not, because when you say you have to, that's such a negative connotation to it, where it's like, I get to. I get to have these opportunities. I get a chance to better myself. I get a chance to say, hey, look, I'm still the author here. And this chapter took a turn, but we're going to right the ship.
I love it. It's so cool. It's a whole idea, full framework shift of like, okay, I am the person who decides this. Like, I'm not letting things affect me in this way, in a way that I don't want it to be affected. Like, I get to do this. I get to determine what I'm doing. It's an entire mindset shift that just allows you to keep building and to go from there.
Absolutely.
I love it. So I've read something here, and I've read and looking at mottos, going back to this and this whole idea of your toolbox and your mottos and all of it, I was really, really inspired by, I saw it on your website, and it says that your personal motto is face it, embrace it, defy it, conquer it. Mm-hmm. How important has that motto been kind of on all of these journeys for you? It was like, when I read it, I had full body goosebumps because I'm knowing your story, what you've worked to achieve and earned in your achievements, and reading that, I'm like, yeah, that I see it, I feel it. And now knowing and hearing more about your story too, how important has that motto been? What was the kind of creation of that? Like, was that from the start? Did you kind of come in the middle of your journey when you were creating that? I just think it's so powerful, and it really fits as like a testament to what you're capable of doing.
Oh, thank you. I actually came up with that when I was in my vegetative state. So that was really something I knew I needed something to hold on to. And I kind of just started, I had a lot of time to think. I was quite literally locked in. So my brain worked, and I was like, okay, I need to focus on, I need some mantra that's going to get me through, because everything else around me is just super doom and gloom. And so I was like, I need to find some sunshine here. And I just started breaking down my game plan of how I would eventually be able to get out of here and get out of the bed and get out of the hospital bed and not, make it to another day, another week, another month, another year, another birthday. And I came up with face it, embrace it, defy it, and conquer it, because I was like, well, I need to face this head on. I need the reality to hit me pretty hard. And then I need to embrace it. And I think that one always throws people off. So, like, what do you mean you want to embrace pain or challenges? And I said, well, you do, because you make a friend with it, and that takes away its power to overcome you. And you embrace, like, when two enemies or foes, and are fighting against each other, when they embrace, it's like, okay, there's a mutual respect of like, hey, I see you're there, but I'm still here too. And then defy is really like taking that and saying, okay, these are the odds stacked against me, but I can defy that. And then it helps you conquer it. So all those steps are kind of what I just kept thinking about. And then throughout my whole journey since then has been a lot of facing, embracing, defying, and conquering things, and continuing to, but it's just it's a different scene in the movie. It's a different chapter, but nonetheless, those were the start of my toolbox.
It's wow. You've made me a little bit speechless, because I was excited to hear more about it, but it's even more powerful hearing about the origins of where that motto came from and what you were able to do and get through. And I love that it's like, embrace it. Like, obviously nobody really wants to go through pain. Nobody really wants to have to embrace pain, but there is a piece of it that pushing it away isn't going to make it go away. Like, it's not like it just makes it hurt significantly more. I've always said that, like, the aches and pains in my body hurt way more after a loss than a win. Like, you're able to embrace the pain a lot more after a win than a loss, but that pain's still going to be there regardless. And so learning to embrace it, as opposed to really just hating that it's there, it goes back to that. It's like you're winning. You're winning this challenge when you're able to embrace it, when you're able to conquer it, when you're able to push. It's like, because you embraced it, you were able to conquer it. I think I was talking the other day with my beach volleyball partner about this, of like, dang, my knees, they hurt way worse after we lose than after we win. I'm putting the exact same amount of strain as in a win versus a loss. It's not like I'm not putting the effort in when we're winning versus when we're losing. It's always always, always, always going to be the same amount of effort that you're going to see from me. But learning to embrace that pain and be super fired up at the effort that I'm putting in, it's a mindset thing that I'm actively working on as a player, that like, hey, I don't want to feel like crap after a really, really tough loss. I want to feel like I was able to battle. It didn't come out my way this time around, but I want to keep on working towards going to the next one. And I usually get there, but it's working to have that faster. And then I love that you're like, embrace that pain, because it does, it shifts into that, like, okay, I'm going to win this next one. Like it's again, it's that like reframe mindset of like, okay, this is horrible in this moment, but in learning to embrace it, this moment's going to be able to be conquered. This moment's going to be able to be achieved past it. Like you're going to get past this moment, but dwelling on what's occurring in the here now, in the pain of the moment, embrace the pain of the moment, but don't let it bog you down. Learn to keep on moving with it.
Yeah. And I think it's something too, where we have such a misconception about pain. And pain, you know, it's the same thing. My mom has always said that crying and laughing release the same feel good, you know, whatever chemicals or whatever. And it's like, when you cry, there's a release. When you laugh, there's a release. But it's all part of the circle of emotions and where your body goes through. If you hold back tears, they're only going to come back stronger. If you're trying to hold in a laugh, it's only going to come back stronger. And I think for me, it's evolved a lot, but I've learned that embracing it allows you to still be the author of your story. When you fight it, it just fights back. It fights you harder. And I'm so over the battle of, you know, the denial or whatever. And I talked about the relapses, and as a result, it's given me just horrific nerve pain in my back. So half the time I feel like I'm being electrocuted. And I remember I got home from the hospital the first time around, so 2 years ago, and I was in so much pain, and I felt broken, and I felt defeated. And I was like, honestly, this is probably the lowest moment I've had in a very long time. And everything was kind of just falling apart around me, but I didn't realize it was actually coming together. A lot was falling apart, but a lot was actually coming together. I just didn't know it yet. But I wrote on a sticky note, I said, pain just means you're alive. You just can't forget to keep living. And I thought about it, and I thought about it because when we're in pain, we feel something. When we feel something, it means you're still alive. It means you're still here. Yeah, it's uncomfortable, but you could be in a way worse situation. You could not feel that pain, and that's an even worse thing. You could be dying and you feel nothing, and that's a worse thing. And so I think it's the mindset shifts that we talk about, those tools. But when you're able to kind of embrace adversity and embrace pain, embrace whatever challenges are coming your way, it sets you up for a path to be able to defy and conquer it. But you have to first take that uncomfortable embrace and step into that uncomfy zone in order to get to that next step.
It's amazing. How do you feel too, looking at all of this? It's like you've had so many battles, like your body has worked to battle against you in a lot of ways. How do you feel like kind of this mental journey and this work that you've been able to put in on the side of conquering the stuff that your body works against you? How do you feel like it worked to help you as an athlete? And looking at your athletics journey when you were doing it, you had already conquered so much. Was it just like, okay, this is the gravy on top? And then, you know, it ended up resulting in three silvers and a gold medal at the Paralympic Games. But something that's so cool to me is I'm hearing that you've been working through this journey and these mottos, and then it comes to sports, and it's like sports might have been, you know, just like, because you had already taught yourself all of these mental practices, being able to bring them into sport must have been such a wonderful thing.
Yeah, I think it helped me channel it in a different way. I think sports gave me an outlet, but it also it was a two-way street, because it also gave me a place to forget about the things I was dealing with. So sports, in a way, I almost was able to anesthetize the anxiety and depression I was dealing with, but didn't necessarily know what it was at the time. And I was able to kind of anesthetize the trauma and everything I'd gone through. And it really wasn't until I stepped out of that and went through some other things that I really was like, oh, wow. She was a bit of a head case. But it really was. But what sports did teach me is that you have to show up and you can do hard things, even when everyone's against you or everything's against you. So I think it started that path for me, but really the real battle in many ways for me was later on, was in my entire, pretty much my entire 20s. I'm turning 30 in September. And I was looking back and reflecting, and as I just achieved this really cool bucket list moment for me, and I got to be in this really incredible film recently, and it was just like this surreal week I had, and that was all these incredible things. And then I thought of just this whole last 10 years of my life, and I was like, man, she cried a lot of tears, and she was really sad for a really long time, and now her smile is genuine, and there is a joy that is genuine, and I'm not fighting these internal battles, and I'm not at war with my mind anymore. My mind isn't trying to tear me, throw me in the water and drown me. And so I think for a long time I felt like I was drowning. And so when I was doing sports, it was a way out of drowning for a brief moment, and a way to also be like, everything's good, I'm good. But I knew how to do that because that was, from a very young age, my safe space. So being able to show up as an athlete, I knew how to show up as an athlete. I knew how to go perform. I didn't know how to show up as Victoria for a really long time, and show up as my genuine, authentic self that could just sit and be comfortable where I am. But I think sports set that foundation of, you have to do the work. You have to show up even when it's uncomfortable. You have to show up when your shoulders are roasted. Or when your knees are hurting. Like, you have to still show up because people are counting on you to show up. And so I think I took that accountability and that strength, and being like, okay, I can go swim for 4 hours a day. I can sit in an hour-long therapy session and work on this muscle, which is probably the most important muscle aside from your heart, to be honest with you. But we don't work on this. We don't think about that. We think everything's good. I have no reason to be sad and all that stuff. You could have everything going for you and still want to jump off a cliff. And that's it. And that's really the biggest misconception that I think we get wrong. And now the narrative is shifting. But I think, with sports, that set me up on, you have to show up. And that, your Olympics or your gold medal could also just be the fact that you got through another day. And there were quite a few days, not too long ago, where I was like, I got through another day today. And I was able to do my job. I was able to show up for myself. I was able to take care of myself. But it's like, it's those things. But sports is such a strong foundation for that, of like, just show up. If you show up, other people are going to show up for you too.
It's true. It's, if you show up, the rest is going to come. But that showing up, that presence, and that ability to show up gives you the opportunity. Like, get your feet there. Get your feet there. Get your body in the water. Get your body present and ready to do the thing that you're going to do, and the rest is going to come. But I love that. It's getting there. Having that presence to get there is so incredible. It's like, okay, it really it narrows it down and it simplifies it. But it's like, okay, I can do the hard thing. The hardest piece is like getting there, and the rest of the hard stuff isn't as hard. Like, let's just get there to start.
You just have to show up, and that's sometimes the hardest part. The hardest part is taking the first step. And there's so many parts of my life, like making the decision, no, I'm not going to let this defeat me, when I was really sick. Like, dying was easy. Living was hard, because I didn't know what living was most likely going to look like, being in a vegetative state, being incredibly compromised for the rest of my life, or taking that first step when I started walking. I hadn't walked in a decade, and I was sitting there like, what do you mean I'm 5'6" now and I'm taking steps, but I can't feel my legs and my body still is not knowing what to do, but I'm going to take that step? Or anything, like anytime you bet on yourself, like showing up to the pool and showing up to trials, and everyone's like, who the heck is this kid? And same with my career at ESPN, like, but you have to just show up. You have to take that step, even if it's a crawl, even if it's just raising your hand. You have to keep doing that, because otherwise you'll just stay stuck and stay locked in, and then it just all comes piling down.
Your entire career has really been surrounded by your ability, and this ability that you've worked to develop. It's turned into an innate ability, but you really worked to create it, to defy odds stacked against you. It's been, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be present. I'm going to embrace this. I'm going to conquer it. I'm going to go back to your original motto that you created and stood by. But it's your entire ability to to defy odds stacked against you is one that's really, really incredible. And I look at, of course, yeah, I mean, it's an amazing thing. And I look at the skills and the resilience and the stuff that you've worked to train, you've developed through all of your life and experiences. And then you've used sport to inform it further. And then you've used that experience to then get yourself into the role that you're in now with ESPN as a commentator and analyst. And all of it, it's like each of these things has been a piece to the puzzle, and they've all been hard things that you've worked to achieve and that you've been really able to do. Again, let's go back to the fact that you mentioned earlier. You were the youngest person to ever be offered the job that you started in. That is an incredible testament to the fact that you didn't even know if you were going to walk again. You didn't even know if you were going to be able to sit up and talk again. And you're the youngest ESPN personality in the history of ESPN. Are you kidding me? It's amazing. Like I could cry on air. Like it's actually, it's amazing. And I think I have a question for you with that is like, how has now in your role as a commentator, how has kind of your experience been developing or how has your experience helped your role as a commentator in relations with the sport and the athlete? How have you been able to kind of take a lens and shift the playing field again to make it a better place, not just for those who are watching you, but for those who are participating and around you?
That's a great question. I thought about this a lot because as an athlete, I saw the media in a very different way. And then when I got brought into this, I really wanted to do it a little differently. And I wanted to just allow someone to have a voice because I know what it's like. I know what it's like to not have a voice. I also know what it's like when someone tries to take your voice too. And so when or define who you are. And so for me, when I went into this position, I was still figuring out who I was, but at the same time, I knew one thing was that I wanted individuals to feel seen and heard, whether it was watching on the TV or sitting next to me holding a microphone and listening to what I had to say. And so I think with my life and with my experience, the good, the bad, the ugly, the great, I wanted there to be a safe space. And I wanted to create a safe space where people felt loved and seen and heard. And even if it's an athlete sitting down and having a conversation, I think my very first day on the job, Michael Phelps was my first interview. And he was so incredibly kind and he was so gracious. And there was such a mutual respect of the journeys we had been on. But it was really just this genuine, I just want to give you a chance to share because everyone's worthy of having a light shined on them. Just a lot of times that light, you got to find that light or someone else has to step in and give them that light. And so for me, everything I do, especially in the work I do, I want there to be a respect and a level of love of like, hey, I'm on your team and I want you to feel seen and heard. And I want to create a bridge, whether it's your fans, whether it's people who don't know who you are and about to, or it's just getting a message across that might change one life. And I always think back to my mom saying, what did you do to make someone's day today? And so when I go to work, I'm like, okay, how do I make it just a little bit better for someone or for what I'm doing, that when there's an opportunity and a chance, it's just like, hi, how are you? And that's the same thing as like when I go about, and I get to work with some really beautiful humans, but when I go about even an interview, I'll be like, hi, how are you? Is it okay if I have a conversation with you? And they already know we're having a conversation. There's already but it's like, I want there to be like, I'm not just going to shove a microphone in your face. I'm not just going to say, sit around. Oh, and we're back. Hi, how are you? Like, it's like, I generally want people to feel like there's a bridge that is safe for you to walk on. So that's really how I go on, because I know what it's like to not be heard. I know what it's like to feel stuck or trapped or like you have no voice. And so for me, I'm like, if I can take nothing else and use my tools to give someone a voice or give someone a chance to be seen and heard.
It goes back to that whole idea of like giving voices to those who aren't heard, and you weren't heard for so long and you were stuck, and it's being able to give the opportunity. And I love that you make it personal and that you give that connection to the athletes that you're interviewing or to the people that you're present with, because there is such a personal nature to sport and to your job right now. Like it's a personable, all about connections, what you're doing, and being able to establish those connections and make them feel really, truly genuine is something that I'm sure has only helped you to thrive in the career that you have now, because of the fact that it's like, this is a special thing to be able to have this opportunity to be able to sit down and do it. And I want the athlete, I want the person that I'm sitting here with, I want them to know that this is as special as they feel. It's just as special for me. It's not just an everyday job that I just sit down and don't want to do. Like, I'm here and I'm grateful to be here. And I want you to know how grateful I am to be here with you. And it
goes back to gratitude. Yeah,
it does. It really does. And I think looking at it too, I'm like, every single day, when you look at it with that, when you give an opportunity like that in work, like every day could be a favorite day. Like you said, you wake up every morning, today is going to be a great day. It makes today a great day. And it probably makes today a great day for the people that are around you as well, because you don't know what the rest of their day looked like, but all you had to do was ask if they were comfortable. All you had to do was make sure that they knew that you were going to be present, that you were going to be there with them. It's going to elevate, and it's going to help. It's going to help increase the presence. And it probably is going to give somebody, to go all the way back, probably going to give somebody some tools in their own toolbox that then they can use to go back and reflect on.
Yeah. And it's like, go be a light, and because you might just shine on someone who's in a really dark place. And I think you have no idea what people are going through. And I can't tell you how many times I was just having such a tough day, and I put on the smile. I went to the event. I walked the red carpet. I did the show, and I'm like, do. But I'm like, it's so but like no one had any idea that I was just drowning inside. And so I never forgot that. And I never forgot all the different negative and positive experiences I've had. And I shared this not too long ago, and I was speaking to a bunch of media folks. It was this big award show, and I was emceeing. And I said, I was like, in a world where we're so connected, we've never been more disconnected. I said, so if you do anything, create a bridge, shed some light, make someone feel seen and heard every single day that you can. And I think the more people feel seen and heard, the more people feel that love. And then that gratitude is contagious. That how you show up, even if it's a horrible, terrible day, still showing up and finding those good things. You don't know who's watching. You don't know who needs to hear it. You don't know like what that one little piece, that one smile, that, the coffee you got for someone or the door you opened for someone can just become such a domino effect.
It is. It's the domino and it's the butterfly. It's like that one little thing can adjust a future forever and ever and ever. You never know what that one little thing that cued you into what career path went on for you. You can be that, you can have that effect. It's one little thing can change a history forever and ever. So being able to have that and being able to know and be a part of that and work to be a part of that and to make things happen, it's really special.
Yeah, it is for sure.
Oh, I'm like looking at the clock and I feel like we've been talking for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I cannot believe how special this conversation has been. It's been really, really wonderful getting to hear your story and just be here and be present and to have the time to, to have this genuine connection and to have this really incredible conversation. I mean, you've like made me cry and goosebump out like 3 times at least. And so I'd say that it was a pretty successful episode if you're asking me.
Well, and you're so eloquent and you have such a beautiful energy of connection. And I really appreciate this conversation, but I appreciate what you're doing and how you approach it too, because that's a sign that you're doing something right when it does feel like 10 minutes and that those moments where it's like there's that alignment. And I think too, you impact so many people, and what you're doing is having way more of a domino effect than you even realize. So thank you for allowing me to be able to have a conversation with you.
We should 100% have more.
A lot more topics to touch on.
Oh my goodness, yes. So Victoria, I have our last little piece here of our episode, and it's It's one of my favorite things of the series. It's so funny to say it's my favorite thing because I think every single conversation, every element of it is my favorite thing. I just really love being present and hearing stories. But one of our favorite little fun series that we do with Strong Girls Pod is our Strong Girls United series questions. And they follow the pillars of our nonprofit at Strong Girls United. And our pillars, for our listeners who are returning, you know them and you love them. For our listeners who are new here, the 3 pillars that Strong Girls United as a foundation that we stand on are strong bodies, kind hearts, and unstoppable minds. And we create our foundation. Isn't it so awesome? It's such a cool, I love our pillars. And I think that it's so phenomenal that we really, really base and ground ourselves as a foundation on that 3. And so in the spirit of our pillars of our nonprofit, we have our Strong Girls United series questions. So Victoria, starting us off, how do you work to keep your body strong?
Ooh, to keep my body strong, I work out, and I do my best every single day to remind myself what a blessing it is to be alive. So whether that's moving, that's practicing gratitude, that mind, body, and soul strengthening is a key to mine.
Amazing. Next
Would you
up.
want me to list my workouts? Because I can't.
I mean, later for sure, because I'll be doing them with you in the future. After we do the serving practices, we can do our workout together as well.
Yeah, just working, I think moving every day keeps my body strong for sure.
I love it.
Yeah.
Now, next up, how do you keep your heart kind?
Ooh, I meditate and I pray a lot, and I look for the good in all circumstances. And I think those, my faith and and focusing on gratitude and reminding of all the little things and big things that I'm grateful for really keeps my heart kind, because the world can be pretty unkind. And working in this industry, you can see some unkindness, but I think I always just try to find things that I'm grateful for and find those little rainbows along the way.
So special. It really is. It's so special.
Mm.
Now, last, but most certainly not least, how do you keep your mind unstoppable?
Ooh, therapy. Therapy helps a lot. And I think having a toolbox of different things, whether it's people you can rely on and trust on, the phone a friend, if you will, or having a good support system, whether it's therapy or mindfulness or prayer, those are all things that keep me unstoppable, but remind me to be unstoppable, because I think it's really easy if you're type A like me, you're really hard on yourself like I am. It's easy to let that sweep you away like a tidal wave. And so having the tools that keep you accountable, but also remind you that you are unstoppable is key for me.
Amazing. Oh, I'm really so grateful for having this time and getting to hear your answers and to hear your thoughts. It's been such an absolutely wonderful call. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. It really has. It's been such a special episode that I'm going to hold close to my heart for a really long time. And thank you for the presence. It's amazing. For all our listeners who are tuning in, thank you so, so much for joining us for another episode of Strong Girls Pod. I'm your host, Charlie Ekstrom, and we are signing off. Thank you for taking the time to join us today on Strong Girls Pod. In the spirit of growing community and inspiring strong girls and women everywhere, please subscribe, rate, and leave a comment about our podcast. Tell your friends, family, really everyone to listen in and enjoy. This podcast is sponsored by Strong Girls United, a nonprofit with a mission to empower girls to be strong, confident, and resilient through sports mentorship and mental health programming. Visit sgunitedfoundation.org to learn more on how you can get involved today.